We don't need to know. Haven't heard you in a while. I indicated you got them twice in one day. What an honor. You're thinking I should be paid for it. Come on, Alan. Well, she has another year and then she'll get paid. Alan, the theme is on twice.
Does that get you to a million?
There's a movie with Jack Nicholson where he goes into a bar, someone put down $100. 10 seconds, name the seven dwarfs.
Can anybody do that?
Happy. I can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, greasy, grumpy, dark, happy, bashful.
Dopey.
I thought I said yeah, dopey.
Dopey. It's easy at the beginning. Dopey. It's the top.
Hello on Zoom.
By the way, just to put this is really a sign that you really get the big time. It's another for rabbis who's here to watch movies. This stage of the game, you're on your own, and you know.
On your own, but not alone.
Now we're only sending out on Shabbos and can only be completed on Shabbos.
Can you hear us?
I hope you're okay with it.
You're very faint. Can you hear me? And my sound is up as high as it can go on the iPad.
Can you hear us better? Oh wait, now we're muted. Can you hear us better? Oh. Can you hear us better now?
Much better.
Okay, great.
That was the problem last week or 2 weeks ago. Got the right mic. Thanks, Sue.
Okay.
You want Calvo happy? Kylo happy.
Gary, do you think it's batteries or you think it's more than that?
It's batteries, I think. They're low batteries.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we have the right mic this time.
Hopefully that's the battery will last.
Does this microphone work too?
Which I was good. I didn't make it. That can work more by batteries. Okay. I'll shut up.
No,
Shabbat shalom.
we like to hear from you. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. So let's get started. Five past the five past.
Yes.
So Ashrei is on page 214.
Ashrei yoshvei veitecha, odi hallelu chasela. Ashrei am shekacha lo, ashrei am shadonai Elohav. Teila leDavid, armim chalei melech, v'varchashim chalei ma'ed. מלכותך, מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. מלכותך, מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. סומך על מלכות דמים. תהילת אדוני דבר פיו, יברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד, ואנחנו נברך יה, מעתה ועד עולם, הללויה, ובא לציון גואל. ואתה קדוש, יושב תהילות ישראל וקרא זה על זה ואמר, קדוש קדוש קדוש, אדוני צבאות מלוך כל הארץ כבודו, מקבלים תלמידיהם. ותישאני רוח ואשמע אחרי כל רעש גדול, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ברוך הגבר בדדדה, אשר יפתח באדוני בדדדה, והיה אדוני מבטחו. איי 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 איי, ביטחו באדוני בדדדה, עד עד בדדדה, כי ביד אדוני צור עולמים, ויפתחו בך בדדדה, יודעי שמך בדדדה, כי לא עזבת דורשך. אדוני, אדוני בדדדה, חפץ למען צדקו בדדדה, יגדיל תורה וידיר.
No, we're not. One short.
Okay.
Always.
Rabbi Kutzo gave a beautiful, they came in, he said, three people who come in at 9:50 or 9:55. You know, I'm not talking people at 10:30, they're a separate category altogether. 9:50, 9:55. Just make an effort to be here at 9:45. Here at 9:50, 9:50, here at 9:45 when it starts. And this way you don't have to go look for someone else to make a minion for people who have to go back to the, which I thought was a beautiful, what a special character.
That's it.
So, okay, so we don't have.
And we still don't have a Torah reading.
But you can still do Amale without a minion. Rabbi Glickfeld has taught me that effect. Unless they write you the word.
My Rebbe here, you can do it with Elmo Rachamim, not needed.
Yes, you can do El Malei Rachamim without a minion. So we're going to chant out of the Chumash from page 552 in the Etz Chaim. We're entering Parshat Vayakhel, not Vayachel as it often appears in the English when you put that KH together, Vayakhel. And so Marshall, I'd like to invite you up. And then after the Torah chanting, if there's anyone who would like an El Malei, we'll chant that then. Okay, yes, that sounds good. Do you want me to grab it? Okay.
So if you're in a Chumash on page 552, start with Parshat Vayakhel. Uh, yeah, I will. So I'll start with Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushonu b'tzata b'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
So since I don't know where the breaks are, I'll just read continually through for the 3 aliyot. Okay. Vayakel Moshe et kol adat b'nei Yisrael vayomer alehem ele hadvarim asher tziva Adonai lasot otam sheshet yamim teyaseh melacha vayom hashvi'i yeh lachem kodesh shabbat shabbaton ladonai kol sevo melacha yumat lo tevaru eish b'chol moshvotechem B'yom HaShabbat, Vayomer Moshe el kol adat b'nei Yisrael lemor, Zeh hadavar asher tziva Adonai lemor, Kilchu me'itchem truma l'Adonai, kol nadiv libo, Yivieha et trumat Adonai, Zahav v'chesed unchoshet, Utchelet v'argaman v'tola ad shani v'sheish v'izim, V'yorot elim ve'odamim, v'yorot techashim v'atzei shitim, v'shemen lama or, u'bsamim l'shemen hamishcha, v'liktoret hasamim, v'avnei shoham, v'avnei miluim, lo'efod lachoshen, v'chol chacham levachem, yavo'u v'ya'asu, et kol asher tziva Adonai, et hamishkan, et aholo v'et michsehu, V'et karasav, v'et karashav, et brichav, et amudav, v'et adonav, et ha'aron, v'et badav, v'et ha'kaporet, v'et parochet hamasach, v'et ha'shulchan, v'et badav, v'et kol kelav, v'et lechem hapanim, v'et menorat ha'maor, v'et keleha, v'et neroteha, v'et shemen ha'maor, V'et mizbach ha'ketoret, v'et badav, v'et shemen hamishcha, v'et ketoret hasamim, v'et masach ha'petach, l'petach hamishkan, et mizbach ha'olah, v'et michbar ha'nechoshet, asher lo, et badav, v'et kol kelav, et ha'kior, v'et kano, et kalei ha'chatzer, et amudav, v'et adoneha, V'et masach shar hechatzer, et yidot hamishkan, v'et yidot hechatzer, v'et metrehem, et bigdei hasrad l'sharet b'kodesh, et bigdei hakodesh li'aharon hakohen, et bigdei vanav l'chahen, v'yetze'u kol adat b'nei Yisrael milifnei Moshe.
We did it. We did the.
We laid.
You made it. You made the menu.
Well, could we say?
Oh,
Oh, I see.
5:05.
No, you made the menu. It's good. Thank you. We're happy you're here. Thank you.
There won't be a problem with the time changes next week.
Nobody gets to leave.
Okay, we're gonna take the Torah out, so please rise.
Are you good holding the book?
I'm fine holding the book.
It's in the, yeah, I have for weekdays here, but.
You brought both?
Oh, yes.
The Misha Bera?
Yeah. Yeah, here we go. Yes, got it. Okay. So,
My name is Fran, and this is for my father, Milton Rickman, and
Milton Rickman, you said?
R-I-T-H-T-M-A-N, Rickman,
Richtman?
and I'll give you his name.
When we get there.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. El Male Rachamim, we're on page, if you have a Lechol Sidor, we're on page 73. El Male Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamtze Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei HaShchina, B'ma'alot Kedoshim U'Thorim, Kezohar Kiyam Asirim, Lenishmat
Mordechai ben David
Mordechai ben
V'Tzipora.
David v'Tzipora, shehalach le'olamo, began Eden tehe menuchato, ana ba'al rachamim, hastirehu b'seter knafecha le'olamim, u'tzror b'tzror, hachayim et nishmato, Adonai hu nachaloto, v'yanoach b'shalom, Al mishkavo v'nomar amen. Fran, would you like to share a memory?
Sure. It's been 27 years since my father died. And on the calendar, it's working out that my mother's yahrzeit, for my first yahrzeit, she just died this last year, is next week. And they were always linked together. They had a very beautiful, loving marriage and were very supportive of each other. And when I think of my father, I think of his sense of humor, his strong political passions, his intellect, and the tough life he had as a product of the Depression and being foot, a foot soldier in World War II. His father was the manager of a prize fighter, and my father did not have a stable, easy childhood. And during the Depression, at age 19, my father went to work in the Triple C Corps, the Civilian Conservation Corps in Idaho. And by going through my mother's papers over the course of cleaning out their home, I came across the documentation and his discharge and the history of all of the work he did. And it was all very, very tough physical labor. It basically said he worked with a pickaxe and a shovel. So if you could imagine how hungry you must have been to take that type of physical work so far away from home. And I think of him a lot, and he also loved my husband Joel very, very much. So,
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Yeh zichro baruch. May his memory continue to be blessed.
Thank you. Go to the happy cottage on 184.
Okay, let's try this again. We are going to Chatzi Kaddish on 222. Thank you. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah ve'alma divra kirtei ve'amlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yamechon u'v'chayedecho beit Yisrael b'galau v'zman kari v'imeru amen yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'me'omaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitshon v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitala v'yitala shmei dekudasha b'richu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'yimru amen. If you're still davening, please continue to do so. Otherwise, we will do the repetition starting on 223. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Koneh HaKol v'Zocher Chastei Avot Umevi Goel Livnei V'neihem L'man Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer Ufoked Umoshia Umagen Baruch Ata Adonai Magen Avraham Ufoked Sarah Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai Mechaye Meitim Atarav Lehoshia Mashiv Haruach Umorid Hagashem Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed Mechaye Meitim Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Berofech Cholim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Yishenei Afar Mi Chamocha Bal Givurot Umi Domelach Melech Memi Tumchaye Umatzmiach Yeshua ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים.
נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם
נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר. קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כבודו, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו, ובדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו, מפינו לימוש לעולם ועד. כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. אתה אחד ושמך אחד, ומי כעמך ישראל גוי אחד בארץ, תפארת גדולה, ועטרת ישועה, יום מנוחה וקדושה לעמך נתת. אברהם יגל, יצחק ירנן, יעקב ובניו ינוחו בו, מנוחת אהבה ונדבה, מנוחת אמת ואמונה, מנוחת שלום ושלווה והשקט ובטח, מנוחה שלמה שאתה רוצה בה. יכירו בניך וידעו כי מאיתך היא מנוחתם, ועל מנוחתם יקדישו את שמך. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, רצה במנוחתנו, קדשנו במצוותיך, ותן חלקנו בתורתך, סבנו מטובך, ושמחנו בישועתך, וטהר ליבנו לעובדך באמת, והנחילנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה וברצון שבת קודשך, וינוחו בה ישראל מקדשי שמך, ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. רצה אדוני אלוהינו בעמך ישראל ובתפילתם, והשבת העבודה לביר ביתך, ותפילתם באהבה תקבל ברצון, ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודת ישראל עמך, ותחזינה עינינו בשובך לציון ברחמים, ברוך אתה אדוני המחזיר שכינתו לציון. מודים אנחנו לך שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו לעולם ועד, צור חיינו מגן ישנו אתה לדור ודור, נודע לך ונספר תהילתך, לחיינו המסורים בידיך, ועל נשמותינו הפקודות לך, ועל ניסיך שבכל יום עמנו ועל נפלותיך וטובותיך שבכל עת ערב הבוקר וצהריים. הטוב כאילו חלו רחמך, והמרחם כאילו תמו חסדיך, מעולם קיווינו לך. ועל כולם יתברך ויתרומם שמך מלכנו תמיד לעולם ועד, וכל החיים יודוך סלע, ויעללו את שמך באמת, האל ישועתנו ועזרתנו סלע, ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך ולך נאה להודות. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם, שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום, כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם, שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם, שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et amo Yisrael bashalom. צדקתך צדק לעולם, ותורתך אמת, וצדקתך אלוהים עד מרום אשר עשית גדולות, אלוהים מי כמוך, צדקתך כהררי אל משפטך תהום רבה, אדם ובהמה תושיע אדוני.
Kaddish Shalem, page 230.
יגדל ויקדש.
Did we lose a minute? No. Okay. Oh, sorry.
יגדל ויקדש שמי רבה, ועלמד דברי קירותי, וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב, יאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעולמיה. יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם וינשא, ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. תתקבל צות הון ובאות הון, דכל ישראל קודם אבוהון דבשמיה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום, עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן.
Aleinu, page 231.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Kaddish Yatom on page 232.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
בעלמא דברה קירותי, וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמיה. יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא. ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום. עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
Amen. Thank you, Yael, for leading Mincha. Take a second to get some food if you like, and we'll start to our study in a few minutes. 5:05. And remember, next week, we have daylight savings tomorrow, so note on timing for next week, it'll be later, right? So, right, forward. So next week, Mincha will probably be around 6:05, 6:10, something like that. Yeah. Was it really? I had two good teachings this morning. Decided which one to go to. I went to Emmanuel because Josh Garraway was teaching an hour and a half long before there. So I was like, okay, I should about how Jewish tradition views truth and where truth sits relative to other values. Yeah, and like it all hinged on, well, there were a lot of layers, but the first entry into it was, Adonai Ne'erachim B'chanim, Erech Kapayim V'Rav Chesed Ve'emet, right? And everyone always says it's Rav Chesed, stop. Ve'emet, stop. But what if it's Rav Chesed Ve'emet, and Emet is also relative to Chesed, and it's like not an absolute. It's not an absolute value of truth. So yeah, he recently edited a book of essays all around called Truthiness, and it was a really good conversation. How you doing, Joey?
Good, are you?
Good. What's going on?
I start working here at the shul on Wednesday.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
It's a volunteer job. It might turn into a paying job.
Nice.
Well, Monday through Thursday, I'll be in Preston, distributing lunches to students and whatever else they want me to do. And not only that, on Friday, I'll be in the office getting documents that we're going paperless.
Perfect. That's really helpful. Nice. How do you feel about it?
I'm excited.
Good.
I like to be working at a place that knows me, but also to be able not to request for huge holidays off and get them off automatically.
Right. Yes.
I have a Hebrew grammar question for you.
Yes, Yashka. Yes.
So you have your right. So normally it's merely your people is So here, of course, we have the negation of them. So it becomes Amita. The question is there a letter missing? Is there a word like Amam or I've never heard the word. So that's the only reason I can think that the negation. Right.
Well, it can have a doubled letter without needing to be a word of Amam, right? It can have the negation can imply a doubled letter without it needing to be its own individual word.
Oh, okay.
So I think it is doubled letter.
Yeah.
And you're exactly right on that. We don't need there to be the support.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a wonderful thing about this Siddur, and it shows you
Right. Yes.
the Shema.
But it is the Bruins are playing, so it's always
No, I was in a bit late. I was working with my grandson's Torah reading.
Oh.
So we had a Shema.
And I'm not going to say anything.
It always happens whenever I ask him what the difference is, he starts mumbling. Shana.
You will appreciate it.
Okay, Liam, what is it? Shana or Shvanach?
And he goes like halfway between the Shvana.
It's so hard.
And it's hard.
But that's interesting that there's no need for a special word, but it just shows up now. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. Okay, you want to eat something? I'll treat.
Yeah, thanks.
I don't have to pay today.
Yeah, Elle, I have a question for you.
Well, I have my uncle.
No, I mean, that's a great one.
Plus, I have, okay.
So this is a
Plus, I also, I'm not.
but it's not a small
But I
one.
know where for, and I know who was, so I will. And I wish. Yeah.
I thought it was probably.
And it's probably the last year of like. That being said, it's not perfect.
Oh, really?
Well, I come to both. Right now we have two executive director. It'll be. I'm not having it.
Yeah.
I do some, but it's not
It's not public yet,
official yet, so, so it will be like hours. But nothing, basically nothing is official, but, I would love to.
No, that makes sense that that's right. Yeah.
I would love to. Thank you. I appreciate you.
No, I understand. I'm also in conversations with my friends about this. Like, perhaps in the reverse, this would be the only time for you.
It really is.
Like, I want to talk to multiple people because everyone's got commitments.
Yes,
Well, it's that found Del Molly, he was when we all dead in the Easter.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
The left, bottom left is 336.
Thank you. That's good.
Person's name.
Yeah. We're not saying, if we only have a left shalom on the end.
Right, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. First you go the long way.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get some more.
So I have to tell you what I did. I made oven sashes for the first time ever.
We used to do that for.
And I have to tell you.
Already heard about your hat. People are impressed with your hat.
I read about it. I did not create it. And I had my trucks frozen. So all those times I got cheese. I had like. So anyway, I went back to our home. Yeah. So it was so easy. Really, and I want to tell you something. I have a friend who well, I thought this was, I kept saying this is the best you've ever had. It's a thinner dough. And so this is a really.
Do we need the, fumash?
No,
Because it's all.
everything's on the source sheet. I tried to make it more beautiful, and then the source sheet's just too big. But it's 9 pieces.
Make it less eatable, not big. Four to five.
I agree.
Max it, better off with
Well,
the.
you'll tell me at the end of this if it's actually too many sources or if it's just too big print.
No, look, I never complained about it.
Never used it. I couldn't think of, oh, that's interesting, I'll use this sometime, and I never used it.
I don't like this.
I agree.
And then I had that family.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Yeah, that one. Yeah. So anyway, I thought those summertime. Yeah.
Oh, I'm good. Black and white, that's what
What about shades of gray? How do you feel about that?
Only if you're 50.
Oh, food great.
Oh, wow. Have you seen the book?
And I don't know you.
No, I know.
No.
Oh, I was reading it once again.
They were in the tin, the best. I'm
So
gonna look for them someplace else.
Maggie Antoine,
You know,
who
to
wrote
get a,
Rashi's Daughters,
you know, just a roll, some.
she
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
I heard she's quite good. She
Yes. I would have liked
wrote a
this,
book
is what I
all
had in my,
around
I even like what I had in my.
it's and it's actually very small.
Well, it's very small because it's not much to talk about. It's like the book on great Jewish athletic stuff.
Right, right.
And the billings worked out really well. Yeah.
It's it'll be double sided.
I think you lose it for five.
Oh, yeah, Rob.
There's water in it.
If you're about to say something.
No, but it might when he's out.
Does anyone still need a source sheet? We have one more. They're here in case someone walks in.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I used to hang out with her.
Yeah, Elle, if I could get your help with the mic, if you're comfortable with that. Okay. Okay, let's wrap up conversation and jump in. You should have a source sheet in front of you or on Zoom. And so we're starting Parshat Vayakhel. And the first 5 sources on this sheet all have one word in common. So the first source here, these are all from this week's parsha. Chu meitchem truma l'Adonai, kol nediv libo, yevieha et trumat Adonai zahav v'chesef unchoshet. Right, we're talking about take from among you gifts to God. Anyone whose heart is so moved shall bring them gifts for Adonai, gold, silver, and copper. But I will warn you that English is not going to be very helpful for you in answering my first quiz question, which is what is the word that these all have in common? Next source. V'chol chacham lev bachem yevo'u v'yasu et kol asher tziva Adonai. And let all among you who are skilled come and make all that Adonai has commanded. Yael, can you read the next source for us? We're just going to go through all 5 of them, and then we'll go back and review.
ויבואו כל איש אשר נשאו ליבו, וכל אשר נדבה רוחו אותו, הביאו את תרומת אדוני למלאכת אוהל מועד, ולכל עבודתו ולבגדי הקודש. ויבואו האנשים על הנשים, כל נדיב לב הביאו כך, ונזם וטבעת וחומז, כל כלי זהב וכל איש אשר הניף תנופת זהב לאדוני. And everyone who excelled in ability and everyone whose spirit was moved came, bringing to Adonai an offering for the work of the tent of meeting and for all its service and for the sacred vestments. Men and women, all whose hearts moved them, all who would make an elevation offering of gold to Adonai, came bringing brooches, earrings, rings, and pendants, gold objects of all kinds.
Thank you. And can we have a reader for the 4th one? It's written in very fine print here, Exodus 35:29. Or actually, I'll just jump in for this and then we'll get into discussion. So, Kol ish ve'isha asher nadav libam oto lavi lechol hamalacha asher tziva Adonai la'asot b'yad Moshe hevi'u v'nei Yisrael nedava l'Adonai. Thus the Israelites, all the men and women whose hearts moved them to bring anything for the work that Adonai through Moses had commanded to be done, brought it as a free will offering to Adonai. So we're clearly in this moment of building the Mishkan, and everyone is bringing things. They're bringing their skills and they're bringing their beautiful belongings. Has anyone picked out what the Hebrew word is that's consistent across all of these? Yes. Yavo, yes, that's true. And lev. So nadiv is across some of them, but not all of them. Right. So nadav is in the last one, but yavi is not. Joey, do you mind using the microphone?
Teruma and terumat.
Also a common one, not in all of them, but in many of them. Yep. So we're going to go back to Marshall's point of Lev. It's too bad Rabbi Kligfeld's not here when we're speaking about his son's name. But Lev is in each of these, right? In the first one, we have it with Kol Nadiv Lev Yevieha, everyone this translation says heart is so moved. Nadiv means generous, right? So everyone who is generous of heart. But then in the next verse, which is 5 verses later, we're going from Exodus 35:5 to Exodus 35:10. V'chol chacham lev, all among you who are skilled. So chacham lev is of wise heart as literal translation. Then we go back to we say in the next verse, vayavo'u kol ish asher nesa'u libo. Right, so now we have a different usage of lev, right? That he essentially lifted up his heart is the literal translation of this. And the JPS translation is excelled in ability. So we have heart being used in euphemisms for different things, right? We have skill in 2 different forms and generosity. And then in the same verse, it also says, Asher nadva rucho. So in this case, it's talking about generosity, but instead of saying nadiv lev, generosity of heart, it says nadva rucho, like generosity of his spirit, right? So we have several different versions of heart and spirit, and different ways of saying skill, and different ways of saying generosity. Why? How do you think of heart in American parlance, kind of euphemistically? If we talk about what does the heart service? And Marshall, I see your hand. If we can get the microphone down.
Well, in English parlance, it's thought of as the seat of emotion, but in biblical Hebrew, it's the seat of intelligence, I believe.
Yes, exactly. So we need to make sure that we keep this in mind when we're thinking about generosity, especially when we're talking about Nadiv Lev, right? Because when we're talking about Chacham Lev, that this is the wisdom of the center of the intellect, and that is the way of describing somebody being very skilled in something, it makes sense, right? That Lev would be something for intelligence, skill. They're very good at their craft. But what does it mean to have the center of the intellect be described as the center of generosity? Right? Because often we think of generosity as something that comes from the heart in our modern American way of saying it, right? Something that comes from the heart, like emotionally, that we have an open heart and we give freely. So we're not actually going to answer that question right now, but we're going to continue onwards and just hold that question in our minds. All of the ways that people are coming to offer their skills and their belongings, how would you describe the model of generosity? We're skipping down. There's a set of questions on the bottom of the third page, top of the fourth. How would you describe the model of generosity that's being proposed here? The large, relatively large set of psukim above this question essentially says that people were giving so much that it was too much, and Moses had to say, stop. Like, huge problem at Betham. People are too giving. And so, that God willing, everyone should be blessed with such a problem. So they're giving so much that Moses says, you must stop. How would you describe this model of generosity? Voluntary. Okay. Note also the questions on the top of page 4. It got split. Universally applicable or only for Jews? Because we're building the Mishkan here, so what does that mean? And does it matter to which cause one gives? But we'll hold that for a sec. Is this universal or is this Jewish specific giving? Sorry, Joel? Not universal.
Mishkan. There's nothing to do with other peoples. It isn't like the Red Cross that would help anybody if there's a tragedy.
Mm-hmm. Why is the Mishkan specific to Jews?
I'm sorry?
Why is the Mishkan specific to Jews?
Because of their relationship to God. And this is, so it says, V'asuli Mishkan v'shachanti b'tocham. They make a Mishkan for me and I will dwell with them. So it has to do with our being close to God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Does anyone have a different take on whether the Mishkan is just for Jews or a way of connecting with God is just for Jews? Can we pass the mic back? Or-
Serious gesture, not. But they just screwed up with the calf, right? So Jewish guilt now looks like it's in operation.
You're all ahead of me and providing all the segues before we get there, so let's jump forward.
But I didn't even cheat and read ahead.
You didn't? Did you really not read
No,
ahead?
I didn't cheat.
Okay, well, wait, leave the mic there and go ahead and read. So this next pasuk, or set of psukim, is not from this week's parsha. It's from the parsha we read this morning, which now would be last week's parsha.
We're up to where are we at?
Aaron said to them, you men take off
Okay.
gold rings.
Aaron said to them, "You men, take off the gold rings that are on the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me." And all the people took off the gold rings that were in their ears and brought them to Aaron. Then he took from them and cast in a mold and made it into a molten calf. And they exclaimed, "This is your God, O Israel, who brought you out of the land of Egypt."
Thank you. Is this a model of generosity? No. Say more. Go ahead, son. Aaron is demanding of them that they give their gold, right, as in response to the anxiety that they expressed, and taking from them. Did God command that the Israelites also give of their own skill and belongings for the Mishkan? No, there for the Mishkan. Yeah.
No.
Did God command, right, that the Mishkan be built of beautiful things from the community?
He did not. He did not.
Okay. Okay, Alan.
This raises just a very interesting question. If all the gold that they had in their ears and everything else went to the golden calf, what gold was left to go to the Mishkan? And that lays, Ein Mukdam U'Char B'Torah, and some say maybe earlier and what have you, but it's an interesting. Well, it's just the ears and the rings. What other gold? What other gold did they have if they were making what was going to be supposedly their image of God that Aaron was doing? And it's amazing. Aaron, the rabbis do everything they can to make Aaron look good. But when you look at the plain shot, it looks like he wasn't so good in what he was doing in trying to get this done.
Aaron didn't
Oh,
say,
yeah.
"Bring me all your gold."
He just said, bring me your
Bring me your
ring.
gold.
Yeah, so Aaron said only bring me your rings and your gold. Okay, 1 second. Sandra and then Irv. Bring whatever you want, yeah.
Bring whatever you want. So yes, you're saying bring it, but it's not like give me everything.
Right.
Not a command, it's more of encouragement.
Right. So,
So but Hashem has told us how to make the Mishnah. That's why I was
Right.
like, I was like, I know there's something in there about Hashem telling us how to make the Mishnah. But when it came down to it, it was kind of like
right, exactly. And that idea that God commanded that the Mishkan be brought and gave instructions, very clear instructions, but then each person brought of their own free will. I'll actually invite you to check back at the pasuk at the bottom of page 2. Thus the Israelites, all the men and women whose hearts moved them to bring anything for the work that Adonai through Moses had commanded to be done, brought it as a free will offering to Adonai. Right. So it's exactly what you're saying is that it is both commanded and free will. But how do we hold all of that? But Irv, you were going to say something earlier.
Yeah, I think Aaron. I don't know where I picked this up. I read it somewhere. That Aaron was making the golden calf as a way of dealing with the people's fears of everything else.
Mhm.
So it was really like a diversion of, the idea of having them do something they probably didn't want to do to keep them focused on staying together rather than just saying, "Oh boy, Moses is gone. We're left here to starve in the desert." Right? That's the situation they were in before the golden calf. The golden calf was, my understanding, Aaron, was it was a good thing because it was like a way that kept the people from doing something worse. Didn't they kill her, who was trying to stop them from doing something? Also, the mob before the golden calf.
Yeah, yes, we're
I'm
going to
getting
put
it all
that story
confused.
aside.
I know. You could straighten it out for me.
What I want to pick out from what you're saying is that Aaron was assuaging the anxiety of the Israelites, right? Like that's how the rabbinic understanding is that Aaron was kind of stuck and didn't have any good option of what to do in that moment, right? So that what undergirds that comment is that intentionality matters, when it comes to generosity, right? That like we don't view this as an act of generosity of the heart, of the soul, of the mind, because it's actually a giving out of anxiety, right? It's a giving out of a negative mental space, and therefore we don't hold that up as a model. Are there any other comments before we move forward to this idea of how guilty they were feeling in this moment? Yes.
So I'm unraveling still with you that only people who will move to be generous will be generous, right? And I guess we still have that for sure in modern society. But unraveling with that, I'm wondering if some of the holiness of time comes from, right? We want people who aren't generous, don't want to give, don't have that insight, who are selfish, who are don't want to be part of the community. We want the mission to be built from that. We want to become somebody like
Right. Yeah. So she's saying, do we want the Mishkan to be built from a place of, guilt, anxiety, obligation, or should it should be holier, that it would be built from a place of love and free will and love for God? Yeah. Yes, Fran. And oh, sorry, Joey, and then Fran.
Yeah. Well, with the golden calf, that was just beyond simple anxiety or whatever. It's blasphemy.
It is blasphemy. Right. Right. So we have a problem with both intentionality and result. Right. Neither means nor end are justified there.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Fran, are you comfortable with the microphone?
I'm happy with where I am.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So, in response to Sandra, I think, I can't speak to what people were like then, but people I know observe today, some days you're feeling more generous than you are than others.
Mhm.
Some days you're feeling more selfish than others. And some, that too. But yes, and or being fed or being protected or all of those issues. So I think it would be very difficult to find unanimity with being generous in all of these different ways of providing for people. And that would what I'm trying to say is, whatever type of generosity we're talking about, I can only speak for myself. I can't speak how everybody else is, but I know some days I am feeling very generous with my time, money, whatever the limited commodities we're talking about. And sometimes I'm feeling frustrated and not so generous.
Yeah.
And I think it would be difficult to make that demand that it only comes from people who, when you get a limited group of people, if you require that everyone's heart be pure, we can aspire to that, those standards, but we can't assume that all gifts are given that way.
I'm just going to repeat that for the folks on Zoom so they can hear it. So you were saying that that some days you feel more generous and some days you feel less generous, and like that's just being human.
Yes.
And it would be a little preposterous to assume or ask that everybody feels maximally generous right when we ask them to, right?
Well,
And
maybe in some miracle of the text, a miracle of that time, everybody was united in their generosity.
right, miracle of this moment that everyone brings
Yes,
of their pure heart.
yeah.
Yes.
So we can aspire to it, but I don't think that's possible.
Yes. Yeah, definitely aspirational. Yes, Joel, and then we're gonna Joel and Marshall, and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
As far as I know, in the days of the Torah, there was no internet and no email. And we are in
Likely.
such a different position. We get so many emails asking us for money. And all of these are good causes. There's an earthquake in Turkey, can we help? We have a need in our own synagogue. Can we help? There's Jews who are hungry. There's Holocaust. We get 20, 30, 40 emails a week asking us for money. And I'm not even mentioning the political ads asking to support candidates. So it's such a different kind of thing where you had one function there, one thing to give to, and now when you talk about generosity, you have to ask, but to what extent do I give something for everybody? Then I don't have any money left for myself. So it's a much more of a conundrum, I think, today.
Yes, yes. It was, while you pass the mic, I'll just say one of the most powerful experiences of generosity that I've ever received was when I was backpacking the Appalachian Trail, and people would not be asked. They would just come out to trailheads and cook us meals or leave boxes full of sodas or whatever it was. And it's called trail magic. Like there's a term and a practice of this all along the AT. It was so cool. And you know, it was,
Sign me up.
yeah, I mean, it does involve sleeping in the woods for 6 months, but that's a different story. So, but you know, this idea of when people give without being,
Sheva,
yes,
you said that I just have to know which direction did you go
I went northbound.
and what months?
I actually, the anniversary of my start date was 4 days ago, March 7th.
Oh, so nice. Because they also, people would let you take showers. People would leave boots in libraries. I mean, I get worked up about the trail, but I'll stop now.
We should talk later. Marshall?
Actually, Baxter and Rosenblatt from the conservative yeshiva sort of answered Alan's question about if they donated all the if they donated all the money for the Mishkan, how do they have enough for the golden calf? And so she mentioned in Sifrei, that which is rabbinic commentary on the book of, I guess, Devarim.
No, Sifrei is Leviticus.
Leviticus, okay. She referenced here Sifrei, but that basically one of the places that Bnei Yisrael were in before crossing over was called Di Zahav, enough gold. So they had both money for building the Mishkan and also for creating the Egel HaZahav.
That's great. So we're tight on time. Can you say it quickly? Okay. Yeah. How, that is a great point, that these people probably would not have had much, and how powerful it must have been to be able to give for the first time. And I mean, there's an interesting conversation on what Abdu meant in Egypt, but it is such an empowering way to enter a relationship with God, right? That you have something to give God, as well as everything that they're receiving from God. You know, everything that they received is it is compelling. I appreciate that point. So I just want to hold that point that we had earlier around intentionality matters and where things come from matters. I'm not going to read this full text, but I will invite you to read it later. There's an excerpt from Rabbi Arthur Green's translation of the Sfat Emet, on the bottom of page 4, top of page 5, where he talks about how after the sin of the golden calf, they needed to give this offering. And he actually, I would think that this would be a guilt offering, right? That like they're looking to expiate themselves of this horrible, I mean, really maximal sin they've just committed. And instead, Rabbi Green says, by the act of giving, they brought forth their own inner generosity, their longing and attachment, so that they were able to draw the Shekhinah into their midst. And that's why the sanctuary is called the Tabernacle of Witness. It bears witness that the Shekhinah dwells in Israel. So this ties actually really well to what you were just saying, that there's that it wasn't coming from a low place where they're not groveling before God. They're actually raising themselves up and saying, like, making themselves worthy of this relationship with God and making themselves worthy of having a Mishkan of God in their midst. We're running out of time, and I was talking to Alan beforehand about whether or not I had too many sources, and I think this answers the question. But The we're going to conclude here. The rabbinic material that follows, if you want to take this home and look through it later, is rabbinic discussion around where generosity sits in the hierarchy of Jewish values, and what does it mean to, what are the other ways, in addition to Nadiv Lev, in addition to generosity of heart, that the rabbis describe being a generous person. And in Pirkei Avot, we particularly see them describe it as a good eye. When you see something in Pirkei Avot say that he had a good eye, it means that he had a generous eye. And I love that, because to me, generosity is not just giving kind of wantonly and blindly, but seeing a need and looking to fill it. So there's both the seeing and the intentionality of, you know, there is a role for me here. So I'll invite you to turn to the very last page. This is from Bavli Sota. And Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi says, one may give a cup of blessing to recite the blessing of Birkat HaMazon only to someone with a good eye, a generous person. As it's stated, one who has a good eye will be blessed, Yavorach, for he gives of his bread to the poor. But the Gemara says, do not read Yavorach, will be blessed. Rather read will bless, Yavarech. And so someone with a good eye both is receiving blessing and is giving blessing of themselves. So Shabbat Shalom. And I invite someone with a good eye to volunteer themselves to lead the blessing, Birkat HaMazon, if you've eaten bread. Thank you, Joey.
Adonai et Shivat Zion Hayinu Kecholamim Hazim Ale Sechok Pinu Ulshonenu Rina Az Yomiru Vagoim Igdil Adonai La Sotimele Igdil Adonai La Sotimanu Hayinu Semechim Shuva Adonai et Shavitenu Ka'afikim ba'negev hazorim berima berina yiktoru halachelechu vacho no se meshech hazara bo yavo verina no se alumotav tehilat Adonai edaber pi vivarech kol basar shim kod shalalam va'ed Va'anachnu nevarech Yah me'ata v'ad olam. Hallelujah. Hodu l'Adonai ki tov ki le'olam chasto. Mi amalel gevurot Adonai yashmiya kol tehilato. Chaverai nevarech. Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach me'ata v'ad olam. Birshut chaverai nevarech Eloheinu shechalnu mishalo. Baruch Eloheinu shechalnu mishelo tuvo chayinu Baruch Shemo Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Hazan et haolam kulo betuvo bechein bechesed uvrachamim Hu notein lechem lechol basar ki leolam chasto uvtuvo hagadol Tamid l'chasar lanu ve'ayichsar lanu mazon lilam va'ed bavur shemo hagadol kiwel zanim farnes lakol umetiv lakol umechin mazon lechol beriotav asher bara baruch atah Adonai hazan et hakol nodel chadon.
Yeah, so we'll begin Mariv first with Kaddish de Rabbanan on page 111 in the Lev Shalem.
Yikadal v'yikadash shmir haba.
Amen.
V'yalma divrach yirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yamechon, v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach le'olam olamei omaya. Yiparach, yishtabach, yipa'ar, yishomam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar, v'yit'aleh, v'yit'alal, shmei dekudisha, brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran olma v'yimru amen. Al Yisrael v'al Rabbanan v'al Talmidehon v'al kol Talmidehon v'al kol man ta'oskin ba'oraita di v'yatra hadain v'di b'chol atar v'atar Yehi lahon ulachon shlama rabba china v'chizda v'rachamin v'chayin arichin u'mizona revicha u'forkana min kadam avohon di v'shmaya v'yimru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim tovim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav u'berachamav yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen.
Amen. Mariv begins on page 264. Please rise for Baruch.
V'hurachom yikaber lo yashchit v'yabal l'shiva bo lo yakol chamato Adonai Yoshi HaMelech Yaneinu b'yom karenu Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Umavi yom umavi laila mavdi ben yom u'ben laila Adonai tzavot shemo El chai v'chayim tamid yimachalenu le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai HaMa'ariv HaRabim V'yahavatcha al teshuvim min le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Adonai Elohechem Emet. U'malchuto b'ratzon kiblo Elohem Moshe v'nei Yisrael l'chanu shira b'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, narati lo do seifele malchut charov v'necha b'chayam l'fnei Moshe, ze Elianu v'yamru. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, b'ne'emar ki padav v'net Yaakov v'golom yad chazak mimenu, baruch atah Adonai, ga'al Yisrael. U'shemor tzeiteinu v'aleinu l'chaim u'l'shalom me'atah v'yad olam. Baruch atah Adonai, shomer amo Yisrael ad. כי המלכות שלך היא ולמיה תמלוך בכבוד כי אין לנו מלך אלא אתה ברוך אתה אדוני המלך בכבודו תמיד מלך עלינו לעולם ועד ועל כל מעשיו. יקדש וקדש מרבה ויעמוד יברח אותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכם יום אחד וחנך בית ישראל בעגלה בזמן קרוב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמיה. יפרח וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה ברכו לעולם מכל ברכתו ושירתה ותשבותיו ונחמתה אדם מרם ביומה ואמרו אמן.
Whispered Amidah begins on page 270. If you're still davening your Amidah, please continue. We will pick up with Chatzi Kaddish on page 279.
יקדש וקדש מרבה
Amen.
ויעמוד יברח אותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכם ויום אחד וחנך בית ישראל בעגלה בזמן קרוב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמיה. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yiparetz mami naseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalhal shmei kudisha b'richu le'lam and kol b'chata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechamata dami ram b'yamav v'yimru amen. V'hinam azmahim. Yikra'eni b'nehu imonochi b'tzara achalteu v'achabdehu orich v'mazbehu v'yarehu b'shuati orich v'mazbehu v'yarehu b'shuati.
Turn back to page 216 for Uvalizion Ve'ata Kadosh. Ve'ata Kadosh.
Ve'ata kadosh shetilot Yisro b'kara zel zevi amar Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Adonai Tzivaot Meloch al haaretz kevodo. V'tisoni ruach v'ashmach rai kol rash gadol Baruch kevod Adonai mimakomo Adonai yimloch li'olam va'ed. V'yiftechu b'chayidei shmecha v'lo zavda l'shecha Adonai Adonai chavetz aman tzidko idil Torah v'yadir
Kaddish Shalem, page 280.
Yiktal v'yirash mirabah
Amen.
Yamad yivrachotei yom nichmachotei b'chaychon v'yom yichon v'chaychon b'eit Yisrael b'agalav v'zman kari v'yimru Amen Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'lomo me'omaya Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yiparetz mami naseh Yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei nikudesha B'richu le'lam mikol b'chatav v'shirata tush b'tav nechmata dami ram b'yamav v'yimru Amen Tikabel soton v'vaton l'chol Yisrael Kadnam avon v'shmaya v'yimru Amen Yehei Shlomo Rabba min Shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom b'mrama v'yaseh Shalom aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imru
Amen.
Amen.
Aleinu, page 281.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'rachman. Kakatu b'toratecha Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar v'ya Adonai l'melech al kol ha'aretz v'yom ha'hu yeh Adonai echad u'shmo echad.
Mourner's Kaddish.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
V'yalma divrach yirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon, v'yomechon, v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, v'gala v'zman kariv v'yimru amen.
Amen.
Yehei shmei rabba mevorach le'olam u'me'omaya. Yitbarach, yishtabach, yitba'ar, yitramam, yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmei dekudesha, b'richu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush birchata v'nechamata, da'amiran v'olma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen. Yasher Koach, thank you, Joel, for leading Mariv. And I failed earlier to thank Marshall for laning, so thank you, Marshall, for laning. Yasher Koach to both of you. And Havdalah is on page 283. הנה על ישועתי אפתח ולא אבחן, כי עוזי וזמרת היא לי לישועה, ושבתם מים וששון ממעייני הישועה, לאדוני הישועה, על עמך ברכתך סלע, אדוני צבאות עמנו, משגב לנו אלוהי יעקב סלע, אדוני צבאות, אשרי אדם בוטח בך, אדוני הושיע, המלך יעננו ביום קראנו, ליהודים הייתה אורה, ושמחה וששון, עיקר כן תהיה לנו, כוס ישועות אשא, ובשם אדוני אקרא, יאי די 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 די, יאי די 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 די, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן. Oh, that one. Oh. Hold on. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei meorei v'samim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei meorei ha'esh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam המבדיל בין קודש לחול, בין אור לחושך, בין ישראל לעמים, בין יום השביעי לששת ימי המעשה, ברוך אתה אדוני המבדיל בין קודש לחול. בין קודש לחול, חטאותינו ימחול. ירבה ירבה כחול, ועל כוכבים בלילה. צרנו וחסרנו ירבה ירבה כחול, ועל כוכבים בלילה. שבוע טוב, 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 שבוע טוב. אליהו הנביא, אליהו התשבי, אליהו, אליהו, אליהו הגלעדי, במהרה בימינו יבוא אלינו, עם משיח בן דוד, עם משיח בן דוד. שבוע טוב.
For those who want to say morning minion is tomorrow at 8.
Morning minion tomorrow at 8
It's
a.m.
over. It's over.
And change the clocks, yes, so it'll feel like 7. But it'll be late. It'll be light later.
Yeah, yeah, but we
Yep.
That's true.
Fine.
So Gary and Marlise, you switched from Gary to Marlise.
Yeah, the problem was that there was nobody let us into the room.
And he was having trouble with the sound. And
You had
whatever.
trouble with this. You had the wrong mic on. Not
So
your
with
fault.
you too,
'Cause
so.
the
Yeah,
now
but
it's-
they fixed that early. I got let right in, but I came like a minute before.
No,
the
that's fine.
storm?
But they didn't let people. We came in late because I got kicked off. And,
Got it.
And then nobody opened the door, so I went on to Zoom. Not your
You mean YouTube?
YouTube.
Oh, you mean in person? Oh, got it. I was misunderstanding. I just had noticed that it was Gary's device, said Gary Backrack, and then it said Marlise, and I'm like, oh, they switched.